We can have as much fun as we can. Alright, here we are. There we are. Oh. Okay. 8 people.
How you doing, Bob?
Very good, thanks.
Good.
Okay, so my speech today is going to be on a quote that we were given that we either had to agree upon or disagree upon. So my quote is, "The most important thing happening today is not being reported in newspaper headlines or television broadcasts. Yet it is by far the most important thing happening today, yet it's not being reported." Said by Edward Cornish. When I first read this, I admit that I immediately thought one thing, but after researching him and finding out the way he thinks, I found that was completely wrong. So, to understand really what this quote means, you have to know a little bit about Ed first. What little bit could be found on him could be found at the World Future Society organization's website. Edward Cornish is the founder of the World Future Society and the editor of its flagship publication, the Futures magazine. He has been a student and proponent of future studies for nearly 5 decades now. He became interested in the impact of science and technology on human life while working as a writer for the National Geographic in 1950. In 1966, he published a 6-page newsletter consisting of brief reports on books and activities related to the future. Favorable responses to this encouraged him to contemplate an association for people who were interested in the future and technological change. The World Future Society was officially launched in 1966 with comprehensive designer Buckminster Fuller, Nobel Prize winner chemist Glenn T. Seaborg, and former U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Orville Freeman, and many other futurist thinkers. As a futurist, he served as advisor for 3 U.S. presidents, co-authored a report by the White House National Goals Research Staff, and served as chief investigator of future studies for the National Science Foundation and the Library of Congress. So now that you understand a little bit about him and what he's done, you might be able to understand this quote a little bit better. In his book, Futuring, he further goes on to explain what he means by telling us that the most important thing happening today is not being reported in the news or in television. He tells us it is a global transformation of technology and society that is creating an age of hyper-change. He says since the future is hurtling towards us at such a breakneck pace, foresight is the great need of our time. We must think ahead if we are going to cope with the hurricane-force changes that are now affecting every aspect of our lives. This acceleration of change can bring great opportunity as well as great danger. He tells us that most of us know better than to go 80 miles an hour down a road without thinking about where we're going or looking ahead. But when it comes to steering careers and businesses, he says that hardly do we ever look ahead to see what's coming. We often end up in a nasty crash that could have been avoided if we had considered possible outcomes. He tells us this is where futuring can help. Futuring is the art and science of exploring the future. It offers methods and techniques that can help you understand trends, identify opportunities, and avoid dangers. Futuring can help you understand future developments, make better decisions, develop worthwhile goals, and find better ways to achieve these goals. He believes that this is a powerful tool for companies to help create a better future for themselves. So I admit, and you can tell now, that when I first read this quote, futuring and our quietly changing society are not what first came to my mind. Although I do agree with what he's saying. Changes over time, the evolution of our society, aren't being reported in newspapers or in television broadcasts. Edward feels this is the most important thing because this is what affects our future. And understanding what goes on now can help us understand what's going to happen later in the future. However, I do disagree with his words, most important. When I first read this quote, I thought, of course, newspapers and TV aren't going to be reporting that you got married or the arrival of your first grandchild, because in my eyes, that is the most important thing to a person, and that's not what it is to everybody else. And that's pretty clear that's not what he meant by his quote. So yes, while knowing what's going on now and what's going to happen in the future is very important, I think living in the here and now and loving your friends and family are what are most important. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you have a successful business if you have no one to share your happiness or your life with. Thank you.
Can you clap for this one, Jim?
Yeah.
Good computer.
All right.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you for coming.
That's
she
wealth
didn't-
right there. Two computers.
She didn't get to choose what she got to do today,
Yeah.
so she had to take what the instructor gave them. So I yeah, I didn't know anything about this fella.
No. Does everything to scare me.
Whole time she's talking, I'm thinking about GM. Why couldn't they learn?
I wasn't paranoid enough.
Oh.